Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, well, we're on this long, strange trip together, aren't we? Yesterday we were dealing with the extraordinary news that our president had shared absolutely coded, top secret intel from another country with the Russian foreign minister and one of the chief Russian spy recruiters in the Oval Office. I would think that would constitute the biggest news story of the week, and yet every day trumps the next. Trump keeps trumping Trump. And so today's news, one is breathless in trying to keep up, is, of course, that Trump, the day after Flynn was shown the door, the national security advisor, he asked the FBI director, Comey, let me get the direct quote, I'm sure you've heard it already, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go." Before he said that, he asked the two people who had been in the room, I believe it was Attorney General Sessions and maybe Sean Spicer, to leave the room. And then he says this to the FBI director, which is clearly an attempt to interfere and or even halt an FBI investigation into somebody in his own administration, which a lot of folks who went to law school say is a clear obstruction of justice. Others are saying, well, it's close, but who knows? Anyway, not to worry. These kinds of things are just going to keep on coming. And we get this information from Comey, who took contemporaneous notes. He's a dot the I, cross the T kind of guy. So he leaves the office, and he's obviously, who knows, angry, concerned, astonished that the president just said what he said, and he sat down and he wrote out immediately his sense of exactly what had happened in that meeting. Now, if Trump was right in threatening Comey in a tweet last week that, I have tapes, better be careful, I got tapes. Well, now, Comey says, great, let's hear the tapes of that meeting, because Comey knows he's telling the truth. And, of course, the liar-in-chief, incapable of telling the truth, is, again, just saying whatever seems to be the fantasy, hopeful reality of the minute. So Charlie Rose tweeted out this morning. He does the CBS morning show. He said that his producers called no fewer than 20 Republican senators, asking them to be on the show this morning to give some Republican response to all of this extraordinary news. And not a one would show. Which brings me to a piece from the Washington Post. Oh, by the way, Vladimir Putin helpfully said, you want tapes? You want transcripts? You want contemporaneous memos of what was going on in the Oval Office? We'll provide them. The Russians will provide them. So, nothing's going to happen. Actually, let me just, unless the Republicans move, they control the government, and the checks and balances, as we've said before, are not, I mean, Trump can commit an impeachable act every hour on the hour, and I suspect he has, but he ain't going to be impeached if the Republicans who control the Congress don't act. And Tom Friedman in the New York Times today does say this: don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath for profiles and courage, for anything. You cannot assume that they are going to act. He says a lot of people have been asking, are there just a few good elected men and women in the Republican Party who will stand up to the president's abuse of power as their predecessors did during Watergate? And then he says the answer is, sorry to say it, no, they won't. And they won't for a myriad of reasons. They won't because the Republican Party embraced this guy knowing full well who he was, because they did see a road to victory, a road to power through him. It didn't matter all his bankruptcies, his pussy grabbing, his unpaid bills, his stiffing contractors, all of the sexual harassment, the lies that he lies as he breathes, says Friedman. They knew all that before they made him the standard bearer of their party. We're expecting those guys to step in and knock him out when they want to use him for their agenda. Because as long as they're all there and they got a president there who's going to sign their stuff, they want to get that deregulation through. They want to get those tax cuts through for the big guys, not necessarily for you. They want to take health care away from a lot of Americans. This has to be done. I'm going to come back to that piece that he wrote in a moment. But I was talking about the fact of the Republicans and their response, or lack thereof, to all of this news that is literally making some of us fear for the future of a country we love. And in the Washington Post, I believe it's written by, this might be from Bump, it's a strange name, Mr. Bump. But Mr. Bump, and I don't even know if that's who did it. Why don't I have the... Well, it doesn't matter. He says the word that the Republicans have seized upon to get through any uncomfortable encounter with a member of the press about the latest transgression of their head of party, the president, they've come upon a word. Do you know what word it is? And it's true. Once you know, that's all you see and hear. They're troubled. And so a lot of, they're troubled. Yes, I'm troubled. John McCain is troubled. Ted Cruz is troubled. They're troubled. Because troubled is a politically safe kind of expression. It shows that you've been thinking and you're somewhat concerned. And, well, here's how the author puts it. Being troubled in times of politically charged scandal is the equivalent of sending thoughts and prayers in times of tragedy. The phrase is always appropriate. The phrase is inevitably meaningless. They're troubled. And so McCain, who, I'm sorry, he's always saying he sometimes says more than troubled, but he's never voted against this president. So McCain says, I'm troubled when the foreign minister of Russia is in the Oval Office. I can't imagine why he's allowed in the Oval Office. So the reporter asks, so what do you think there should be consequences, Senator? And here is McCain's response. What consequences do you think that I have? You tell me. You're asking me what the consequences could be when you aren't even telling me what consequences there could be? I can't answer your question. I can't, and no one else can. I've been around here a long time, my friend, and if someone asked me a rational question, I would be more than happy to answer it. I think they're going a little nuts. What are the consequences is a perfectly rational question. It doesn't even make sense. You tell me. This is one of those sentences that literally makes no sense. You are asking me what the consequences could be when you aren't even telling me what consequences there could be. All right. I don't know. Words don't seem to mean much. And then he went on to say, I don't know what the consequences are going to be, except for the decision of the American people. To which I believe Mr. Bump then said, can the American people appoint a special prosecutor? We're supposed to figure out the consequences? Well, if the American people could, I have a feeling they would impeach this guy right now. Can the American people impeach? Can the American people issue subpoenas? No, Senator. That's the kind of stuff you guys do. Instead of standing around troubled. Marco Rubio's gone so far off the deep end that this morning he was tweeting, or yesterday morning he was tweeting early in the morning, sort of Trump-like, Bible passages. Quoting the book of John, here was Senator Rubio's tweet. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Oh, dear. Oh, there are some Republican senators, by the way, who are not troubled and are perfectly happy to say so. So that gets back to Republicans and something I have said forever. They don't govern. They don't believe in government, so they're not into it. But they seek the positions of the government because therein is access to power. Power they like. Power they love. And power they are shamelessly willing to use. They're shamelessly. I'll stand by what I said. And then we get back to something Friedman says, and I've said it before myself. The one thing I must admit I admire about Trump and his enablers, in other words, the Republicans, is they are not afraid of, and indeed they enjoy, exercising raw power against their opponents. They are not afraid to win by a sliver or by a Supreme Court decision, and then govern as if they won by a landslide. George W. Bush did it. Trump does it. Think of how they use the power. Mitch McConnell because he had it. He had the power to say to the president, Barack Obama, I will not let you appoint a Supreme Court justice. That's it. Never mind that the Constitution says the president appoints and then they sign off or not. He said, don't even bother. We're not even going to talk to anybody you nominate. I assure you Democrats would not do that. Maybe they will now, because this is what we were talking about yesterday. When democracies start to unravel, when norms are broken, like what McConnell did with Obama's Supreme Court nominee. When norms are broken, it often then creates an equal response by the other party when they then exercise power. Okay, you guys did this to us, we'll do this to you, and we never get back to what was the norm after these power at all costs Republicans finish breaking all the norms. Trump had the power to appoint climate deniers to key environmental positions, and he did it. Science be damned. The Constitution be damned to Mitch McConnell. Trump had the power to fire Comey, even though it meant firing the man investigating him for possible collusion with one of our enemies. And Trump did. Appearances be damned. And then Friedman says, hey, Democrats, I'm not necessarily, he's clearly not saying act like Republicans, but he's saying do not think that your marches, your millions of people in the streets, your clever tweets, your Saturday Night Live skits are changing anything. You need power, not comedians. You need power, not marches. And he says this, you need to get out of Facebook and into somebody's face by running for Congress. The morally bankrupt crowd now running the Republican Party get their way not because they have better arguments. Hell, I mean, quite the opposite. And all the polls now show that the American people don't agree with them. But the Republicans don't care because they have the power and they are not afraid to exercise it, no matter what the people want, no matter what the polls say. We know this. Americans were against their stupid health care bill. Americans now, once they understood, oh, you mean Obamacare is my health insurance? No, I don't want you to take that away. It's fine. It's fine. So, Trump's presidency, writes Friedman, is a threat to the rule of law, to freedom of the press. Oh, yeah, did you see what he also asked Comey if he couldn't lock up reporters? That was just a little thing he said that got lost simply because he then asked Comey to, drop the Flynn investigation. But right before that, he wondered, can't we get some of these reporters in jail? Can't you lock them up? So Trump is a threat to everything any true American patriot holds dear. A threat to the rule of law, a threat to the freedom of the press, a threat to ethics in government, a threat to the very integrity of our institutions, a threat to the values that we want a president to uphold for our children, so that when they look at the president, they see a good, honorable person. He finishes with this. The Republicans are not going to impeach him. Forget it. It's fantasy. Either Democrats get power or they are stuck emailing each other Saturday Night Live skits. Now I'm troubled. Oh, did you see the violence in the streets of Washington yesterday? I mean, blood, cops, blood, people being kicked and stomped on. Did you see that? It was outside the Turkish embassy, I think. And it was because the wondrous dictator / president of Turkey, Erdogan, was at the White House. And so some people, I believe mostly Kurds, showed up outside the Turkish embassy to protest Erdogan. They were attacked violently and physically by Erdogan's thugs. He flew over to the United States to meet the president, and he brought a little army of thugs with him. And the video's out there. You can check it out. And I'll tell you, it also shows Washington police desperately trying to get between the peaceful demonstrators and these Turkish thugs doing what they do all the time in Istanbul and other places where their president says, go for it, do it. But doing it on our streets, that is really sickening and disgusting. And having our police, a city police department, have to come in and try to stop the behavior that is a norm now in what used to be democratic Turkey. Democracies are failing before our eyes. And we're looking wobbly. I mean, I'm sure you share my feeling that I really never thought I'd live to see this. Never. So the people who are saving us right now are the leakers. God bless them. They're everywhere. They're in the FBI. They're in the CIA. They're in the White House. And I think the truth will out simply because there really are enough people in a position in all of these important areas who have a genuine concern that we, the people, know what's happening. Because we're being lied to constantly. So Trump is off to Saudi Arabia and Israel? And the Vatican on Friday? What a great time to go to Israel. After he just surely got an Israeli, a very brave Israeli, killed. Because Israel is the country whose intelligence was compromised and given to the Russians. And the Russians are palsy-walsy with the Iranians. And the Iranians want to wipe Israel off the map. So that was a great handoff. Israel gives Trump important information in the fight against terrorists, ISIS. Trump hands it over, essentially, to the Russians. And the Russians, well, who knows where they're handing it off now. But to Iran would not be a stretch. So I can't imagine the uncomfortableness, the awkwardness of Trump heading off to Israel right now. Because I think it's generally believed that whoever he outed, he had to have outed somebody who had managed. See, the Israelis are one of the few countries, might be the only ones anymore, that still put people, they go for infiltration and putting people, their own people, in incredibly dangerous situations so they get human intelligence, not just satellite stuff, not just this. They do the old, real spy routine of people willing to risk their lives to live a secret life and to then be able to give intelligence back to the country, which then shares it with us. We do very little of this kind of thing. I mean, Americans don't infiltrate ISIS. We find somebody in the Middle East who is willing, perhaps, to be brave enough to do it for us. Or as we were talking about yesterday, we used to do that. Why anyone would trust their lives to this Trump administration and to the country that he is creating, it seems, is absurd. But so ISIS is very easily, probably, going to figure out who the plant is. And that Israeli person who is pretending to be an ISIS guy, he's dead. Thank you, Donald Trump. You killed a brave man who was doing more to fight terrorism than you ever will. Good job. And then I understand Trump is going to talk about Islam in Saudi Arabia. Oh, dear God, please don't. Don't humiliate us. Don't. Please. I can't really bear it. I'm heading to the emails. We got Henri saying, one of your emails yesterday gave you a list of 4 ways that Trump could be removed from office, and one was the 25th Amendment. In today's New York Times, they had a lengthy article about the 25th Amendment and how it could be used. I feel this is the best and most likely approach. To declare Trump unfit for office is an easy argument. And many Republicans, such as John McCain, have already uttered these words. But they don't act. They just talk, Henry. I don't know. Senator Schumer was on the Senate floor this morning, and he was throwing the gauntlet down to the Republicans, saying, hey, guys, now is the time to stand up for your country. And forget party. We've got to save the country. I assure you they weren't listening. My mother came up with, she saw the four possibilities, and she said, or you could just shoot him. She's a 95-year-old woman. She doesn't own a gun, so I'm not outing my mom there, but I thought it was pretty funny myself. We also have Brooke. I found Putin's comments today very interesting. It was reported that his comments were of a sarcastic nature, calling Americans politically schizophrenic. And he jokingly said he would have to chastise those who attended the meeting with Trump in the Oval Office for not relaying the secrets revealed To what? To him? If there was any doubt that Putin has Trump's back, there should be no doubt now. Well, he is a helpful stooge for every despotic leader that comes in. He tries to ingratiate himself with. He only treats our allies, like Angela Merkel, like dirt. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We got Joe on the line. Hello, Joe. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah,
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's similar to Watergate. Yeah, you were saying the other day. But then I get this feeling too. So they impeach him, which I'm like you. I don't think they will. And then we have Pence. I said this before. It's like I'd sooner have Trump than a religious nut in there who governs the country through his religious beliefs. That's just what he's about. So it's like it's a no-win situation for anybody that didn't vote for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Screwed.
Yeah, the idea of Pence as president is just frightening as well. But as has been pointed out, he's not totally nuts. Just because he calls his wife mommy, and just because he won't eat dinner with a woman other than his wife if she's not present, and just because, he's a whacked out Christian, I guess. I don't know. Pence could end up going down with a whole bunch of people simply because he's always been in the room. He's always there. Do you notice that? I've never seen a vice president who's there so much. So it could be he's already, he's lied and known he's lied. And I don't know. But then you get Ryan, who is the most unprincipled person. Anna Navarro had a good line the other day. She said they should start putting Republican spines on milk cartons. Yeah, missing. Missing.
You know what I find funny is the CIA. Now, I don't know if it was Truman. Was it Truman who created CIA?
I have no idea.
I can't.
Well, it came out of World War II, out of the OSS.
Maybe it was Eisenhower. I don't.
So no, it might have been. It could have been Truman who took it.
But he wrote a book about he should have never done that. And I kind of laugh at the whole thing I know we have national security, but everything's in national security interest. And to me, that system we have to have it, but it's bloated. And it's only bloated because the shit we've done, and I hate to keep going back to the Middle East, so we need all those spies because we pissed off the whole Middle East and all these countries, so now we got to be over here, to see if somebody's going to screw us. I mean, shoot us, kill us. It just amazes how you bloat the system because you stir it up, and then it's like we got to keep it going because it's not national interest, national security, it's job security. And I believe that wholly. I do.
Oh, yeah.
Job security.
No, I agree, too.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Yes, you too.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Don't be troubled. I got something that'll trouble you. Except, wait, I think we're getting a call, so I'll hang on. Hey, did you see who's going to be our ambassador to the Vatican? Callista Gingrich, Newt's wife. With the hair that doesn't move. You know who they wanted to give it to? Rick Santorum. And he turned it down because, well, he took his name out of the running because he said it would be a financial burden on his family. Okie doke, we've got, Ronald is on the line. Ronald? Hi.
Between Jim Comey and Donald Trump, White House denying what Comey says, I'm believing Comey.
Yeah, I think that would be smart. I mean, Trump, come on. Trump can't even tell the truth. He doesn't know truth if it bit him in his fat behind. He does not. He can't. He lies as he breathes. It's that much a constant. We know it. We've seen it. So who are you going to believe, him or Comey?
Okay.
I agree with you completely. Thank you. And I mean, yes.
Okay. If you had the power to choose a person who you think would make a good president to replace Trump, who would that be?
Well, it has to be a Republican.
No, I'm just saying,
Out of the blue?
It doesn't have to be. It can be anybody out of the blue.
Well, right now, I think I'd put Joe Biden in.
Well,
he knows he knows the territory. He's a healthy man. He's a good man, and he's a smart guy. And I would put him in a minute, just because we see what happens when you have people who don't have a clue how things work, what you do. I would just go immediately to something known, and that would be Joe Biden.
A person who always impressed me, and I don't think you agree with me, is John Kasich.
Well, I mean, John Kasich, as Republicans go, is not bad, but no. I mean, he only looks good because of the rest of the Republicans being so unbearably loathsome.
I know.
Yeah, so...
When you think that Trump emerged from, a group of 13 Republicans who wanted to be president during the primaries?
Yeah.
And the one we got was Donald Trump.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that says anything for the rest of the Republicans.
Well, it doesn't say it's what it does is doesn't say much about the Republican voters, the base. They gave us him because first of all, they were still having a snit fit over having for 8 years a black guy lording it over them as president, and then the idea of some friggin' woman like Hillary then they went insane. There was no way they loved the fact that Trump was the antithesis of Barack Obama, who was a dignified, honorable, serious man, a likable man too. And and these guys said, obviously think Trump would be better. Well, I'd like to punch every last one of them in the face. I really would. I really would.
I don't know if this country can survive 4 years of Trump.
No, I don't think we will. I think there's no way he's finishing out this term. I said that before he took the oath. There's no way. I don't know how it's going to end, but there's no way we can tolerate this for 4 years. You're correct. Thanks, Ronald. Appreciate the call. Okay.
You're welcome.
Bye. Beth writes, I would like to start the movement. Let us call all of our Congress peoples and just recite this. Okay. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the offices on which I am about to enter, so help me God. Call our senators and just say this. Remind them of the oath that they took. An oath to the Constitution. not to their party. And they are violating their oath of office. Call your senator. And it's true, if you read that oath, it doesn't say, I solemnly swear to protect my party. I solemnly swear to protect the president. No, it says, I will support and defend the Constitution. And here we have a president asking the FBI director, can't we jail some of these reporters? He took an oath to defend the Constitution. The First Amendment of which, the glorious First Amendment of which, gives reporters the right and the freedom to ferret out truth. Good idea, Beth. Although I think it falls on deaf ears. Chuck says, you mentioned Anna Navarro earlier. We need more Republicans like her. Yeah. She used to infuriate me with her Republican commentary, and now she's my hero. Well, you see how, because, right? Things shake out in times like these. And, yeah, the cream rises, so that's why our Ronald can say, I like John Kasich, even though he probably doesn't really know much about Kasich's voting record and what he did as governor, a lot of which wasn't great, I can assure you. But he seems like an honorable man. And Anna Navarro, who's got a quick wit and lip and takes no prisoners, she's been on Trump's behind since the beginning because she, too, has a sense of honor. The other day, Chuck writes, she called out the GOP and said, you'd impeach Hillary over this. We need more conservatives who are willing to fight for what's right and not for the right wing. And I agree, too. Joe Biden, he's your best chance of uniting the country. He's respected, even by people who don't like Democrats, I think. Roger writes, Fox and Friends thinks the traitor weasel leakings to the press should be found. Well, they think that's the story. The very people who are saving us, because they're undoing Trump. And if Trump goes, their power takes a huge hit. Because a Republican Congress, as we found out in the Obama administration, they can control the Congress and pass one ludicrous, noxious bill after another. But when it goes to the president's desk, as the Constitution says it must, it got vetoed. Of course, they'll still have power if they impeach him. I don't know. So Fox and Friends thinks his meetings with Comey's notes during his meetings with Obama should be revealed. That's what they think that we should be doing now? Dear God. A friend of mine thinks there must be really bad stuff on Pence, too, and that once the Democrats take control, they'll get Trump and Pence out, and Pelosi will be the new president. How will she be the new president? The only way she'd be the next president is if we did this. They got Trump and Pence out after 2018, and somehow the Democrats had taken control of the House. Because the Speaker of the House is the third up. She's not the Speaker of the House. That vampire Ryan is. I'm not a big Pelosi fan, but that would be a riot. There'd be riots in the streets. No, I don't know. No, I'm no big Pelosi fan either, although she's capable. You see, what she was an exemplar of what a good Speaker of the House does and is. She knew how to get things done. Paul Ryan is absolutely at sea. So, David Axelrod had a good line the other day. He said, everybody comes anywhere near Trump, their reputation is destroyed, inevitably. And they either look like they're a liar or a fool. You got two choices. You want to jump on Trump's bandwagon? You're going to look like a liar, because if you defend him, that's the way that's going to be, or a fool. That's about the only choices possible. And I forget who also suggested that everybody in the White House from now on, everybody in that staff who's going to be in a meeting, who whatever, had better lawyer up. Oh, John Dean. Somebody who was in the White House in a different time during a different scandal. And if you look at all the people that went to jail out of that White House, often it was simply for going along. So anybody going along in that White House, better lawyer up, because there's a good shot you're going to end up in jail. Trump just ruining people's lives, the country, the people who even supported him and held him close. Rumor has it that Trump has been unhinged in the White House, screaming at people, threatening people, that he's even turned on his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Trump apparently says that they're all incompetent. Well, heaven knows he should know what that looks like. So there was an intruder stopped by who tried to jump the fence at the White House yesterday afternoon. You aware of that? Yeah, yet another. Tried to jump the fence, and some wag on Twitter said, which direction were they going? Well, if you don't get it, well, never mind. Milton. Oh, this is something I have to look at later. He said Kimmel had a good bit on last night. But, as Tom Friedman said, Democrats were left with, sending each other these things. Like, hey, Kim, look what Kimmel said. Look what, look what any of the others said. Look what SNL did. Because we have no power. Oh, we got the late night comics. We have no power. So, I'll look at it later, I promise. Here's something that I'm sorry to tell you, and you might have heard of it, but the importance of it cannot be overstated. Deregulation has done so much damage. Do you remember when they used to break up monopolies? Remember that? Back in my early years, I remember often that two companies wanting to merge would be told, absolutely not. You'll be too big. Well, there used to be a rule when I was first in television that no single corporation could own both a newspaper and a broadcast, I think a television station and or radio station in the same market. That was a rule because back then there was actual concern that a corporate entity might have an agenda. And if you let one corporate entity control the media, what people will read, what people will see on their television sets, what people will hear on the radio, that this could be a danger to our democracy. That is correct. That was correct. All that is gone now. And a very few corporations own every damn television station in the country now. And every radio station. There's a few little holdouts. Every once in a while there's a local guy who's holding out and has a few radio stations. But man, those corporations come with such money. We want your that usually, inevitably, they sell out. And if you wonder what happened to radio, remember it used to be good? Remember? What happened was there's just a few players now that own them all. And so there's a homogenization because it's cheap. You do programming that you can run on all your stations. You don't have to hire as many people. Often there is kind of corporate control of what is said and what is not. You could see what happened with talk radio, that there was a template and only conservative talk was allowed. Truly, only conservative talk was allowed. So I want to tell you about a owner that most of you don't know about. It's called Sinclair Broadcast Group. And little by little, Sinclair has been buying up stations left and right. They now have stations in 70% of all. They reach 70% of all American households. Man, that's neat. They're in 70% of American households. And the thing about Sinclair, they're just about to add 42 more stations. And some of these are big ones. They're in New York City. They're in L.A., some of the big markets that they hadn't cracked. And they are, here's the scary part, they're political. They make Fox look like, Mother Jones. They are right-wing as all get out. And you know what they do? They they demand that their stations air in their newscasts stories that are put together at their headquarters, stories that may or may not be quite true, but that buttress unbelievably conservative points of view. Sinclair has ordered all its stations to run a daily segment from what is to be called a terrorism alert desk. Ain't that wonderful? Updates on terrorism-related stories anywhere they can find them, just to keep people scared. During the election campaign last year, Sinclair sent out a package that their stations had to air that quite clearly suggested that Hillary Clinton, that people not support Hillary Clinton because the Democratic Party was historically pro-slavery. I mean, okay. The reporters at KOMO in Seattle, which is a pretty liberal town, when Sinclair bought them up, were just beside and they were apoplectic. They had been being journalists, and now they were told, stay away from stories about that. You do stories on this. We give you stories to plant here. And some of reporters at KOMO said that there were daily kind of little acts of rebellion in which, okay, they would run the segment they were told they had to run, but they would run it. They would find a time that they knew was their lowest viewership. They tried to bury some of these things. They were told to look into the fact that all the protesters flooding Washington were being paid. They were told, get on that story. And it was, of course, a lie. It was a hoax. All those kinds of orders coming down from Sinclair. And I got to tell you guys, we the people are losing. We're losing. Okay, one more quick email and I'll say goodbye to you. Lynn, this is from Ansel. Hillary launched a new website on Monday for her new organization, Onward Together. The mission is to advance progressive values and work to build a brighter future for generations to come. I really didn't see this get much press, but it's good to see her put her toes back into the pool. I wonder where she's headed with all of this. I don't know. And part of me doesn't care. Isn't that funny? I've had it with the Clintons. I really have. Go away. Sorry, they're tainted. She just is too radioactive. And this talk of Chelsea maybe running. Come on. Get a fucking job. Excuse me. Okay, that's it for me. Have a great day. Go Pens! Making me nervous wreck. Okay, bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.